which is, and probably because they don't have an MDE. Okay, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for your interest in our meeting today. We have had an overwhelming amount of interest in this. And I think that's really about your dedication to working and for our English learners and really serving all of our students in Mississippi and helping to meet their needs. So I really applaud you all for that. So we're joined today by several offices. As you know, our English learner team at the Department of Education is split up into several offices. I'm from the Office of Elementary Education and Reading, as is Leanne Cheeseman. And we also have Sharon Pressbridge here from the Office of Accountability, and also Brenche Roby Fletcher, and Farah Nicholson from the Office of Federal Programs. And we have a new person that's here with us today. You've all seen the mission and the goals, and you know, really during this time, it's really been our goal to make sure we're continuing to deliver that world-class educational system, even through distance learning. And at the department, we're working really hard to provide that leadership for each of you so that all of our students can be prepared to compete in the global community. So just some session norms. We're working on that chat box situation right now, but if everyone could please keep their microphone on mute unless you're speaking to the group, that will be very helpful with filtering out all background noise. This session is being recorded, and we have 3 people from our team who are working on really also capturing all the information. If you have resources that you want to share with us, hopefully as we get that chat box figured out, you can put those in there and we will collect all of that information through the and have a central location for all those resources to be shared with everyone who's on the presentation today. So Ginger Kessler from our intervention office is going to be collecting those. And if we are unable to get this chat worked out, if you could just email me those resources, we'll collect those and compile them in a resource bank for everyone. We'll also send out a PDF of this presentation, and we are, as we said, recording this presentation for everyone. Okay, so as we said, we would like to welcome a new team member today, and that's Dr. Melissa Levy-Jackson, and she is the new Title III coordinator. Dr. Jackson, do you have any words you want to share with us or anything you want to say?
I would just like to thank you all for welcoming me to the team. That's it.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you very much. So let's, okay. So again, welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for your dedication to our students and for all your hard work. So we're going to go through today some updates on some resources provided by the MDE and some updates from the Office of Student Assessment. And we're also going to we want a good part of this session to be a conversation about what have been your challenges and triumphs and about next steps for meeting the needs of our students in this very different time of education. So, Melissa, do we have any luck yet over there with the chat box?
No, not yet. I think it's going to have to be some settings that you create as the administrator of the group.
Okay.
But
So,
I'm not sure that we're going to get it up for this one, unfortunately. We might just have to have some monitored discussion.
okay, that's okay. All right. All right. All right. So we were going to do a poll question, but now we're going to do it a little bit differently. So let's just have, if a couple people want to share, how has your workload changed while we're working in this very different distance learning situation? Do you have less work? Do you have about the same amount of work, although it's a little bit different? Do you find that you're working a lot more than in the traditional school setting? So if there's anybody that wants to share.
I think this is Tara Funches of Canton Public School District. My workload has somewhat decreased because we do not have any data that we can look at as far as lost links data, and trying to manage our students still getting language acquisition while they're at home. So that kind of decreased our workload, but it has increased us in the manner of trying to get professional developments together for the upcoming school year and how we can better practices on teaching social distancing and incorporate language acquisition at the same time.
Okay, great. All right. Does anybody else want to share?
Hey, Miss Elliott, this is Crystal Wade with the Lakeport School District.
Yes.
Hey, so we have a pretty large EL population that we serve, and for us, I feel like we've had an increased amount of time that we've had to dedicate, particularly towards just education efforts with regard to technology use. So how to really fully transition to online learning, along with trying to connect our families with resources that they may not have, such as internet. We've been able to successfully, I believe, connect with the actual tangible technology, but the access issue itself has posed quite a problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So your work has changed in how you're having to get them those resources. And it sounds like that's a lot more of your time that's spent on how do we make this happen.
Yeah, there's been a lot of like one-on-one videos that I feel like, and conferences, phone calls, and we've had to get very creative about how we reach out and how we band together as a department.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that for us, the struggle is we feel like we've been doing a good job at supporting gen ed teachers, but our kind of thing is, okay, how do we go about actually serving our kids from the standpoint of like language acquisition and developing their English proficiency? And that's kind of like our next focal point is I think we've about got down the support, but now the actual service.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to share? That's going to be great for our conversation later in the session. Anybody else want to share?
This is Betty Wilson McSwain with the Home School District. I would like to share, I think, as far as the workload is concerned, the company is finding ways to actually deliver instruction. For us, we only had, out of our 61 students, we only had one family with internet access. So at this time, I am looking for, programs, perhaps for language acquisition, that I can actually provide maybe DVDs for families without the capabilities of internet access. At this time, we are working with various companies to get internet access to our students, but we don't want to have regression from the gains that we saw in the English proficiency. And so just there are some families that we have beginning learners as far as the language progression is concerned. So to do a phone call is very challenging and unproductive. And so we are still looking, I hope to get some ideas from this call of how do we serve those families and still practice social distancing.
Great. So that's gonna that's going to help us in that conversation as we go through that. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. Let me see if I can get my program to work here. Let's try this. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and start talking about some of the, I know some of you have gotten this, the link to this via the daily updates that come out from MDE, and some of you have this information from our EL listserv. So everything that we put out, we try to make sure, I try to make sure it goes out on the EL listserv. If you're not part of our EL listserv, you can join it by going to the EL page, or just email me and I'll add you to it if you'd like to be part of it. I know that the district testing coordinators already are on a listserv with Sharon in the Office of Student Assessment, and I know our federal programs directors are also on a listserv through the Office of Federal Programs. So they're getting, you all should be getting the information that you need. So, so I just want to go through here for those of you who aren't aware of these. So we do have a lot of resources that we've been spending a lot of time trying to make sure we vet them and check them for how accessible they'll be for all of our students. So in the MDE district, in the MDE, I'm sorry, on our MDE webpage, we have supports, guidance support. So when you look in there, you can slide down to English learners, and it starts off with this, but we have a whole document on how we can take those 4 language domains and best practices and apply them to a distance learning situation. More of the instructional piece of what do we actually do with our kids. The next one is resources, at-home resources for districts, and we've gone through these very carefully. Again, we have English learner specific resources that we've gone through. We look specifically at are they reaching the 4 domains? How also, I really try to look at these and see, for those students who may not have a device or may not have access to the internet, what else are we providing? So there's a variety of resources on here so that we try to meet the needs of all students and all families who have different kinds of resources. Do we need to provide it for them in a print way? Do we need to, can we provide it for them virtually? So there's a lot of different ways to access this stuff on that site. And of course, we have our family supports. And again, here, we also have specific ones for English learners. And keep in mind, though, too, with all of these, we always have the family guides for student success, which are available in English and in Spanish. And they do go through the language arts and the math standards. It uses every math standard and every ELA standard for each grade level, and it has that standard broken down into language that's easier to understand for somebody who might not be in education, and it gives the families activities that they can do at home. Those are already developed for you. So those are some great resources. And then Leanne's going to talk to you also about our literacy supports.
Hi, everyone. Welcome this afternoon. So with regard to literacy supports, our literacy coaches are still out in the field. They are working on virtual coaching. And so if you are in a district or in a school that has an MDE literacy coach, please utilize them. They are an amazing resource. And they are working to make sure to share with teachers strategies, resources for virtual coaching. And I'm in constant communication with them on how to support your English learners as well through virtual coaching. Sandy, you can go ahead to the next slide, please. In addition, here are just 2 resources that I've become aware of, as you all are doing, I'm sure. I've been attending multiple webinars and really just trying to build my content knowledge on distance coaching, distance teaching. And I came across both of these resources, which could be very beneficial for you as you're wanting to support your English learners. So the first is from the Massachusetts Department of Education. And similar to us, they have developed family guides. So similar to our family guides for student success, the of this is they have them in multiple languages. And so I know we have them available in English and Spanish, but in addition, they have them available as well in Chinese. They are a Common Core standard state. So their expectations, while not exactly aligned to what Mississippi's are on every grade level, are close enough that this could be a resource to share with your families. The next resource is from Chicago Public School District, and this is one of my favorite resources that I have found in the past few weeks. So what they have here is every 2 weeks, Chicago Public Schools releases packets for math, science, social studies, and ELA for all of their grades. I'm going to pull it up on my computer real fast so I can see, going from pre-K all the way through high school. And they have the packets available in English and in Spanish. What's really nice is that at the high school level, it's not just standard generic high school content. They actually have it broken out into civics, world studies. They have algebra 2, biology, chemistry, physics, English 1 and 2, English 3. So there are a variety of courses that are putting out packets in Spanish in addition to English. They also have, which I think is really awesome, they do have remote learning packets for diverse learners. They also have enrichment packets available for pre-K through high school, because we know our ELs, right? They are open to the same opportunities as our other students. And we've got some amazing gifted ELs out there that might want these enrichment packets to keep their little minds occupied while they're learning from home. They do update their packets every 2 weeks. And on their website with that link, you can find the past 2 weeks worth of content. I've done these with my own daughter at home. They're really great. And they are in Illinois Common Core state, so they do align very closely to our Mississippi College and Career Readiness standards. But there might need to be some conversation with parents or teachers that there might be a few that are not directly aligned to our standards. In addition, on the Chicago Public Schools website, they now have remote learning guidance for parents available in Arabic, Chinese, Polish, Spanish, and Urdu. They also have for parents how to make virtual sessions a success. And that resource is also available in Arabic, Chinese, Polish, Spanish, and Urdu. So that is something that would be an awesome resource to share with your parents. It's generic information, but it might help them be aware of expectations, and just kind of give them a little bit of support as well as they're helping their children navigate the current educational climate.
Great. Thanks, Leanne. So now we'll go on to Sharon Prestridge from the Office of Student Assessment.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. We have just a few updates in regards to the ELPT schedule. Sandy, can you move forward one slide, please? We have these important dates. They have been modified based on the current situation. As you can see, all scorable materials, paper-based only, should be received at DRC by May 15th. The reason for this date is so that the students who were able to take the paper-based assessments can be included in the master data file when it comes back. The non-scorable materials, again paper-based, should be received at DRC by May 29th. Now we do have the Accessing and Understanding Student Reports webinar on June 16th. This webinar is going to be a little bit different from the previous webinars in that these reports will now be accessed directly through the Insight system. you will not have to go to the external OCR system. And that webinar will be from 10 to 11:30. That's why it's a little bit longer than the previous webinars, because it's going to detail how you would go into the Insight system in order to pull down these reports. And finally, all student proficiency reports will be available to districts through the DRC Insight system on June 17th. We're basically following our original dates, so that we can ensure that our paper-based students are included in the master data file. Next slide, Sandy.
Sharon, just a quick question before you go on. So if, let's say, a student took part of the assessment but didn't finish all 4 components, will the district and the school receive the information on what was completed?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Do we have
Next
any
slide.
other? Okay.
If you'll go to the next, yeah, there we go. The reason I wanted this slide to come up was because the question that Sandy just asked is part of the QA that is on this site. In order to get to these questions, I basically just kind of gave you some steps to follow, or you can click on the active links. But it will take you to a list of EL-specific, ELPT-specific questions. And those are currently numbered 16 through 20. Because as questions get added, those numbers may change. So just be aware of that. But the questions such as that are listed on this site. And while you're on this webinar, if you would like to access this site and take a look at those QAs, especially for the EL students, and if you have other questions, we can field those at that time.
Sharon, I'm going to go ahead and click on that link. Which one do you want me to go to? This first one? Or
you could go to the second one that's a COVID-19. That's the shorter one. And it will take you to the assessments and accountability. Scroll down to assessments and accountability. Click on that. And then scroll kind of toward the bottom of this list. It starts question 16.
Okay.
There you go. But if you take a look at these questions, you'll see what some of the questions that have been coming in to the COVID-19 site, to the COVID-19 email that MDE has out there. These are some questions that are coming in, and these are some answers that we have generated to those questions. These seem to be the predominant questions. Oddly enough, these seem to be the predominant questions that are being asked in regards to the ELPT. But if you'll notice, we can go through them very quickly. The first question has to do with how do the students exit the program? And we explain the students who are in monitored status, they don't take the ELPT anyway. The students who are in served status would take the ELPT. Whatever pieces or domains that they have taken will be scored. And those scores will be included in the student proficiency report. And we always post those in the ELPT testing tab by the year. So if the student took all 4 domains, they would receive an overall score. Those students would be then looked at for eligibility to exit. Now, keep in mind, there may be students who took perhaps 3 domains or 2 domains, but they had a disability preclusion in place prior to March 16th. Disability preclusions will be applied to all of the students who have them to see if they would then meet the criteria. So we've tried not to overlook any possibility in that regard. In terms of looking at students for exiting purposes. If the student did not take the ELPT, then the student still remains an English learner, and the student will take the ELPT in the next spring, which would be spring 21.
So we'll go ahead and take any questions that we have around the ELPT or assessment of English learners at this time.
I've got a question, Sandy. I'm sorry.
Sorry, you can go ahead.
Hi, Sandy. Rob Brown in Starkville.
Hey, Rob.
How are you? I'm just wondering about years in the program. How is this year going to count? Is it going to count as a full year? Is it going to count for 3/4 of a year? Is it going to count at all? How do we do that when we're trying to figure out how long it is until they can exit?
Is that question for assessment or federal programs?
That's a good question.
Yeah. I think this is definitely something that we're still, Brendan, Shay, have y'all discussed this in federal programs? I know we talked about it in a meeting.
That's a question that we're working on. However, according to the guidelines, we have to go by the guidelines. The guidelines outline how many years they will have to be before they are exited from the program. So that's going to tie back to what assessment and accountability comes up with there.
So that's still being discussed. That's a great question, Rob. Laurie, are you on the call? Laurie Weathersby?
Yes, I'm here, Sandy.
Laurie, can you take that down as a question that we definitely need to follow up with and get that to our leadership team?
Yes, I've got it written down.
Great, thank you.
I have a question. It's this is Shar from Canton. It's in regards to accountability. How, even though our students were in Canton, our students were unable to take the ELPT. Okay, so how would that affect their accountability?
I believe that's one of the questions, Sandy, if you scroll back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the questions. I want to say maybe around 15, 14.
Okay, I must have missed that one. Okay.
I don't know. I kind of saw
It's
accountability
15,
on
yes.
one of the questions.
Yeah, so there will, everyone, as we know, that everyone's report card grade will remain the same from last year to this year. So it looks like the accountability task force is really looking at how to appropriately adjust this. And the leadership team is working with some national experts to work through how this disruption in brick and mortar school settings as opposed to distance learning settings, how that disruption is gonna look and how it should look for our accountability. That's a great question. Thank you.
Right. Question about language service plans.
Okay.
Since we were unable to test for the ELPT, when we're tracking that data on the language service plan, how do we need to account for that gap year? Especially since I've had a number of students, one, enter the program. I had brand new students, I had newcomers starting in August, and I have some that have obviously no score. So how do I need to mark that on our service plans?
Yeah, so you're going to have to look and see at what other data do you have that can give you an idea of how you should set your goals, because you won't have any scores to put in the new language service plan. You're going to have that as a blank for this year. I know some districts who were working on that pilot program with Lost Links were considering using that as a resource to where they can build their goals for next year. Is that kind of what you were thinking of? The question about how do I set my goals?
A mixture of that, as well as like for data purposes, because we were tracking our data based off the raw scores. Mm-hmm. And I have a number who were incredibly close, as well as classified as long-term ELs. And so I'm just trying to figure out what I can do to help us track that data, since I have no numeric besides anecdotal and classroom scores for ELs.
Is there anybody on the call who is doing something with that can share something with her about what they're doing with your data?
I would just say, this is Mary Moak from Madison County Schools. I would say one of the things you would look at is if your school or district does benchmarking, Those benchmark results might be something you could look at. If they're younger, they may have taken, like kindergarten level, may have taken K-Ready at the beginning of the year, and that would be a point that you could use. If your school uses iReady or MobiMax, there could be other data points. If you have STAR that you use, look and see what your school or district is using as far as assessments, and see if any of that might be helpful to use as a data point.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we always talk about it in MTSS to not just look at one data point. You know, I know in the language service plans, we really do look at those ELPT scores very carefully, and we use it to build our goals, and we're tracking that data very carefully. So we're really going to have to look at this a little bit differently this year, as far as looking at, you know, that other data, had they grown in like she said, in all your other resources that you have. Does that help a bit?
Slightly. It's the only problem is we're a one school district, and so a lot of our students weren't in state tested classes, so there are no data points.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any kind of so you're talking about high school students, right?
Yes, I should have said that.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any data, any classroom data that you can look at? Do you have any anecdotal data that you can look at from what you're doing with them in your EL class? And, you know, you might have things like fluency reads or things like that. Do you have anything like that that you can use?
Unfortunately, due to our schedule, I am a full-time gen ed teacher as well as being the EL coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I pulled them in the middle of my teaching classes from their classes to assist them. But I can try to hunt down their teachers to see if they have any data, because I know with our school, the grading was slightly different, but the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I'm not too sure if the teachers know how to accurately assess those students, instead of just giving me, oh, well, they made an 80 on this. They wrote down 2 things and completed literally 1/4 of the assignment. So just trying to figure out the validity of that data.
Yeah. Is there anybody else that's come across this too, that's on the call, that would like to share something that they have done that's kind of helped with the situation?
This is Elena Welch in Clarksdale Municipal School District, and I think something, I haven't done this yet, but that I'm thinking about is including more teachers in an upcoming student evaluation team meeting, the one that would most likely inform as I start to work on language service plans for next year as well, including more teachers and hoping that they can kind of give me an idea of how kids are doing, and then being able to document it. Those are things that we're talking about as we're making those language service plans.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have something to share with that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This is Shelley Silvas from Biloxi Schools. I heard you mention about the field test data. If we were one of those schools that participated in that, did you say that we are able to use that data on the LSP?
Yeah, if that helps you, yeah, and you mark it as those were scores, but I would use it to help me to determine what my goals are going to be as far as language, because those students, just because they didn't take the test doesn't mean they still remained at that level they were at the beginning of the year. So you want to build that next language service plan based upon as close as you can get to where they are now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So if you've got that pilot data and you can use that to help you, I would definitely use it, because that's definitely, to me, that would be closer to where my students are now than where they were at the beginning of the year or at the end of last school year.
Correct. Thank you.
Just one point about that. Please note that the pilot data cannot be used for exiting purposes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Miss Elliott.
Yes.
Hey, this is Stephanie Green with DeSoto County Schools.
Hey.
How are you? I might be jumping the gun here. While we're talking about language service plans, are we going to discuss the addendum?
We can. We definitely can. So go ahead.
My specific, especially I hear others discussing that they're working on language service plans. Our challenge is, how is everyone handling these meetings right now, given our current situation? Has anybody found a platform, an interactive digital platform to use?
That's a great question.
I'm using Google Meet with my students, and so they can see us, I can see them, we can communicate. Is that what you're talking about, like a virtual meeting type situation?
So the meeting is not the issue. It's getting the set signatures on the form. I've created a fillable PDF, but it locks it. So we, for example, use Office Outlook. And so once one person signs, the other person that's on the other side of the computer can't sign. So our issue is, how do we have these meetings safely right now to ensure that we're, meeting our requirements to be in compliance?
So I'm just thinking about, and Leanne, I know you've got something you want to share in with this. So I'm just thinking about, so you're having the meetings with the parents and you're documenting it and people are signing, but not everybody can sign it at once, right? Is that basically it?
Right. We're not supposed to have gatherings. Like, we can't have gatherings in our school buildings right now.
Right. And we wouldn't want you to do that. Is it possible to send, so I'm thinking like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking like the person who can't necessarily sign it would be the parent. Like, you could get everybody else on the school team to sign it, but you can't get the parent to sign it.
Well, we are actually not allowed to intermingle with other, like, for example, our pony system where we mail documents from one campus to another has stopped. Yeah. So even when we meet as a set, it's all virtual. We're all in Zoom meetings, and then we're screen sharing documents. So if we could have an interactive document, that would be fantastic. I just don't know if anybody has successfully found a way to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is Crystal from Gulfport. I know that one of the things that, our special education department does is they use DocuSign, which allows for all the participants to be able to digitally sign. It sends it to the email of the parent. That might be potentially something to look into.
I will also add to that Adobe has a way to virtually sign as well, and it leaves a timestamp and everything else, and I believe it's free.
Adobe does allow you to sign, but once one person signs it, it locks up the document for editing. So if they don't sign it at the exact same time, that's the issue.
Yeah. Okay. So
I do like the DocuSign idea, though. I would have to see how that would work on a school level, but I think that would probably be something that would help.
And I wonder if y'all already have that for your special ed teachers. That's a great idea. I like that.
Something that we've done too, this is Debbie Harmon in Houston. Because of all of the restrictions and this and that, we've just taken very careful minutes of our meetings when we have the meetings, and made a note in there that says, due to the COVID-19 and social distancing and blah 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 blah, these are the people that were involved in the meeting, and attached a copy of our minutes, and hopefully that will cover what we have to do due to the unforeseen circumstances. It's hard to get actual signatures.
Brenche, is that okay?
Hello.
Brenche, is that something that'll work for them to do that in the meantime, and then possibly get signatures once we're able to get, connected again?
We're planning on doing, right, to get, actual signatures later, but just attaching a copy of, the screen that shows who all participated, the actual minutes, what was discussed, and stapling it to it. That was the best thing that we could figure out to try to get this done in a timely manner, and to try to cover all the bases.
I believe that would demonstrate that you all did your due diligence in trying to ensure that you met those particular tenants there. We do know we're working in a new normal situation. So that is being that detail, it will outline that you are trying to make sure that you have all parties involved in the process.
Right. That was the best thing that we could do. And also try not to basically beat our heads against the wall trying to figure out what to do. We try to just keep it as simple as possible.
Hello,
Perfect.
Sharon.
Yes.
This is Juanita Jameson with Senatobia School District.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have done the same thing, similar to what the previous caller just mentioned. We recorded the minutes, and then on a signature sheet, I just printed the name of the parent and indicated the time and the date in which the meeting was held. And I was just attaching a copy of the minutes to the sign-in sheet that I have, where I printed, the parent's name. And beside the name just indicated the date and the time of the meeting. Mm-hmm. And I also recorded the Zoom meetings that we've been having.
Okay. Great. Does that help you, Stephanie?
This is Bryn
That it does. And as long as that's what I would have needed from my supervisor above, if we're allowed to document and add meeting notes and block print and get copies of this to the parents. For example, we're using school status right now. So we send a copy of everything to the parents because it translates it. That's fine with us. We just wanted to make sure that we were in compliance and covering all our bases.
Okay. Brent Shea, I'm sorry I cut you off. Did you have something else to add?
I was just agreeing. I think the point is that you want to make sure you have those meetings documented. As long as you can clearly show that it was documented and the participation was there, I think, and you keep all that information together, I think you'll be fine with those LIEPs.
Great. Okay. Well, this has been great discussion. I want to make sure that are there any other questions related to the ELPT? Before we move on. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. Okay, so we're not going to do this in chat, but I'd just like to think about what all the initiatives and struggles that you have been going through in the last several weeks. Just think about that in terms of a rose. And really, we've got those three parts to a rose. We have the bud. What are those new things that or initiatives that you have started that you feel like are growing and making some progress with? What are some, when we think about the thorn, what are some of the challenges that have really been difficult for you to overcome? And we want to share out ideas with these so we can help others through this. And then also, like, what are you really proud of that you've gotten through? So if we can start with, I mean, anybody can share anything. If you want to share your bud, your thorn, or your blossom, we're good with that. And we can go in any order.
One thing I would like to, this is Stephanie again, to say as a blossom, someone else mentioned earlier the amount of time we've had for professional development. That's been something that's really blossomed in our district over the past few weeks because our gen ed teachers have had a little more time at home to play with some of these platforms. And we've done some book studies for CEUs. And so gen ed teachers that normally would not have signed up or had an interest in learning more about EL strategies, they have. And I think this is something we will absolutely continue, even if we do return back in August, are these online professional development opportunities, these book studies.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Have you had something in particular that you felt is a really strong book study that you would recommend to the rest of us?
We have two going right now, and if you wouldn't have asked me the titles, I could tell you what they are. I can send you the list. I think one is like 6 strategies. They're both TESOL books. And one of them we got, I think, at one of our conferences. It was the Unlocking Potential for English Learners. It's the strategy book. I think there's a whole outline to it. I can send you the CEU templates of what we've been doing if anybody else is interested.
That's great. Yes, and then I can share it with everyone. That's
Mm.
fantastic. Thank you. Especially now, it's hard for teachers right now to get CEUs. So that's a great way to do it for them, to provide them that opportunity.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, how do they get CEUs with a book study?
We are using an online platform. One of our specialists is using Canvas because it's got a free portion, and they just lay out questions, and it's interactive. And the teachers read a chapter at, we have a set window, and I think they can get 0.5 CEUs for the book study for, I think it's a 6, or I can't remember how long the duration is. But our teachers have really liked it, and it's gotten some good conversations started. So
great. I want to give everybody else a chance to add in, but I want to circle back to Miss Betty Wilson's question at the beginning about resources that you were looking into. Miss Betty, can you repeat your question and expand on that a little bit so we can see if we can help you out here? I think we might have lost her in the call. So we'll get back to her. So is there anybody else that has something that they want to share with us? Especially I want to look at those challenges so we can see how other districts have overcome those challenges and how we can help each other out during this time.
This is a thorn again. Sorry, this is Tara Funches again. My biggest issue is ensuring that language acquisition is still going on at home. As we know, when our kids are not with us, they revert back to their native language. So the biggest issue to me in this environment is trying to ensure that our language acquisition is continuing at home. In Canton, we use iReady. So I do know that has academic language piece built in. So we rely on a little on iReady to provide that. And we also use Imagine Learning. And I encourage the principal and the teachers should encourage the students to continue with doing Imagine Learning. But I've noticed with my weekly report that my usage has been down. There's no way that I can actively ensure that all 500 of our students are actually participating in Imagine Learning, continue their language acquisition. So I just would like to know how some of the districts are working with their gen ed teachers and administrators to get that language acquisition piece out there.
I want to piggyback on that about Imagine Learning because we use that too here in Claiborne County. And what I've discovered is I have a family of 5 who are all on Imagine Learning, but they don't have 5 iPads or computers, for each child to use. So one logs on, does his lesson, and the other child was going in just because it was still logged on, and they go in and continue doing the lesson right after that child, and it was looking like the child been on the computer 2-3 hours, and so I talked to the parent about it, and he wasn't aware that they had to log off and log back in under their name, so I think communication with the parents, just one thing that you can do for us at Imagine Learning, and make sure that they understand how it works. They have to pass it around, different, within that household. Everybody just doesn't have their own device, at all time. And Imagine Learning can't, I don't think you can do it on the cell phone. So they all have to use this one iPad. So you have to consider that too. And the time that they are on it is lower than they would be if they were in the classroom. So that's a challenge and a thorn for me too.
Yes. That's another thing that we encountered this morning. I was on an IEP meeting this morning, and that's another thing that we encountered. A lot of our students does not have internet access. So this one particular student was doing his iReady homework via telephone, using the internet on a cell phone, and he's not getting the full concept or the full page of as he would if he had an actual computer. So, and then with the language acquisition piece, the parents are speaking, most of our parents speak their native language and are not bilingual. So that's another aspect that I'm trying to work through mentally and see how I can better help our students and our parents at the same time.
I think we're we lost the last part of that. And I think there was somebody that wanted to share something.
Yes. My name is Claudia. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Claudia from Petal School. I'm hearing a lot. We use Imagine Learning too, but a lot of our students don't have access to internet. We as a district have provided computers for everybody to use, but when you go towards the rural areas of the district, they don't have service, or we have provided hot spots for them to come. But a lot of parents of those 5 children, moms cannot drive the kids and sit them in the parking lot for hours to do the work. So for us, it's been challenging to give them extra work for language development unless they are the very low-level kids. And we work with the regular teachers to see how we can serve those kids differently. But making sure that the other kids can have access to just the regular math class or the regular English class on paper, or a way to get them and things like that. And there are a few that cannot access that. And as you were saying, our parents speak another language. They don't have an ability to support these kids at home. So the kids are on their own. So we have to make sure that instructions are simplified, that they can access what we send them, because they don't have the support of the teacher that normally is available on site at school.
That's a great point. Those are great points there, Claudia. Thank you so much. The other side of that too is when you if you'll look at that guidance that I talked about at the beginning, it really looks at how are we thinking differently about our EL instruction. So are we having that collaboration between EL teachers and Gen Ed teachers so that our EL students are getting the support from the Gen Ed teacher to really learn and work on and practice those strategies that the Gen Ed teacher is sending home, either paper-based or virtually, however that's happening. What are the supports and how are we doing that? And that guidance document that's out there, that I think that will give you a really good start on that. And just another point too is that I know we're talking about our kids are going back home and they're using that home language, and let's remember that even if kids are getting read to by their parents in that home language and they're talking to their parents in that home language, that's building that vocabulary in that first language that when we get them back, it's going to help them because they're going to already have that background knowledge in that first language. And we want to continue that growth in that too, because it's only going to support what we're doing with them and what we want to continue to do in the fall when we get back.
Sandra, this is Melissa D'Angelo and Maria Garay from Pascagoula School District. And to play off of what Claudia was saying, our parents, this is new territory for them also. So one thing our district has done, our teachers have created about well over 1,000 instructional videos that we've put on YouTube and on our district webpage. And then we have created additional resources for the parents to teach them how to translate a website using the Google Translate feature, or how to add subtitles to a YouTube video, or how to add translated subtitles to a YouTube video. And again, that's for those who have internet access. And we have paper packets for those that do not. And we have really pushed the EL and the content teachers to work together to simplify instructions and to underline keywords and all of that good stuff. And then still supporting our content teachers with little strategies here and there that sometimes they just forget. But it's new territory for everyone. And it really sounds like everybody's doing a great job.
Yeah. Honestly. I think you're right. Melissa, would you mind sharing that link with us for where we can access those videos? That sounds like a wonderful cache of resources that perhaps some of our other districts could link into.
I'll tell you right now, it's really simple. If you go to pgsd.ms, at the top, it's a big square that talks about parent resources. And if you go to the parent resources and scroll down, it says instructional videos, and it's K-12 grade level, content level, and then you scroll through there, you'll see multilingual resources. I think that the videos it's under EL videos. But yeah, however I can send that out, I'll send it to you if you want to send that out.
That's awesome. I'll do that. And if there's anybody else that has any other, I know we're getting to the end, and I feel like we have just kind of tapped the surface of this. I want to end with one final poll question, and I can get you to answer on the poll to find out if you're interested in additional EL related check-in meetings similar to this. So your choices will be yes, similar to today's meeting, yes, but with smaller regional meetings, yes, with smaller meetings related to specific areas like assessment or federal guidance or distance instruction, or if you're not interested at this time. So I do have, I'm going to leave this to the side, but I have a link for that. I think I do. Here we go. So if you will go to www.menti.com and use the code that's at the top of this, and just tell us what are your choices on this, and that'll give us an idea if we want to follow up with this kind of thing. Y'all have been tremendous today. You've been tremendous throughout this entire process. It's been huge to undertake distance learning in general, and then to undertake distance learning for English learners who have so many areas where we are seeing, we've always known that we are dealing with a lot of different issues with English learners, and that will make your effort is making a difference for our English learners. Your care and concern for them is tremendous. And we really, really appreciate everything that you're doing. I know you don't hear it all the time, but I want you to know that everything you're doing is making a difference. And it makes a difference to the kids. It makes a difference to the community when they see all the work that goes into everything you're doing for kids.
Sandra.
Yes.
I have one more thing. I did send out, because I know we had someone to speak about newcomers earlier. I did send out the Duolingo website for my high school, my secondary schools, which my high school, my ninth grade academy, that receive a lot of newcomers. Then more newcomers in my elementary schools. So I did send out those links that those students can work on English. So I did send out that Duolingo, so and it's free. So if someone would like to do that too for your newcomers, I think that is a good resource as well.
Great, great. And anybody that's on the line that if you have links to something that you think has worked tremendously, even if it's something that's out there already, or if it's something that your district or you personally have created and want to share it, please email it to me and I will get it to everyone that was on the call today. So we'll post this this webinar, this recording of this webinar. We'll post the PDF of the presentation, and any resources that everyone shares with us, we'll post those on the EL page, and I will try and get them emailed out to everybody that was on the call. So it looks like we've got a lot of interest in continuing these kinds of conversations again. And it's after 2 now. So if you have logged in and you still want to record your answer on Menti, please do that. I want to be respectful of your time because I know you have so much going on right now. But those of you who need to check out, please go ahead and do that. And just a reminder, this went out on the daily update recently. There is a distance learning webinar put on by Transact on May 15th at noon Central Time. So that's something to look into. Here's our EL, and this is our intervention support team, and this is our EL team. And as I always say, we really, really mean it when we say, if you need us, call us, contact us. We are here to support you, and that's exactly what we want to do. So thank you all so much for your time, and have a great day.
Keisha, are you going to be sending out this PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.